Money comes into your life, and before you realize it, it is gone. You work, you earn, you try to manage it, but it never stays. It feels like something is wrong, but you cannot explain what. The truth is simple. Your money is not disappearing by accident. It is following a pattern you repeat every day. Most people believe the problem is income. They think if they earned more, everything would change. But this is not true. More income often leads to more spending, and the result stays the same. This means the problem is not how much money you make. It is what happens after you make it. There is a moment that decides everything. The moment money enters your life. This moment is small, almost invisible, but it controls your future. Because what you do next determines whether your money stays or disappears again. Most people react instantly. They think about bills, expenses, and small rewards. It feels responsible. It feels necessary. But this reaction leaves no space for growth. Everything is used before anything can be built. This is why nothing changes. Because when spending comes first, your future gets nothing. And when your future gets nothing, your situation stays the same no matter how hard you try. This pattern repeats every day, and over time, it becomes your financial reality. The pattern feels normal because everyone around you follows it. You see people earning, spending, repeating. It becomes almost invisible. But normal behavior often leads to normal results, and normal results rarely create financial growth or stability. The reason your money never stays is not because you are careless. It is because your system is built to spend first. And a system that spends first will always remove money before it has a chance to stay. This system works automatically. You do not question it. You follow it. And because it repeats every time, it becomes stronger over time. You are not deciding. You are reacting. To change this, you must interrupt the reaction, not with a big decision, but with a small pause. When money enters your life, you stop. You do nothing for a moment. This creates space to think. In that space, you gain control. You can decide what happens next instead of following. And that decision is what begins to change your direction. The next step is simple. Before anything else happens, a portion must be removed and protected. This is how you begin to keep your money. Once you protect a portion first, the flow of money begins to change. It no longer disappears instantly. It follows a structure you created. This structure may feel small at first, but it introduces control. And control is what allows money to stay and begin building over time. Most people resist this step because it feels like restriction. It feels like you are taking something away from yourself. But in reality, you are creating something new. You are giving your future a place in your financial decisions. This protected portion becomes the foundation of growth. It is not meant to stay still. It must be directed, because direction is what turns money into something that can expand, instead of disappear without purpose. Consistency is what makes this work. Not the amount, not the timing, but repetition. Every time money enters your life, the same structure must apply. This is what builds momentum. Most people fail here because they stop. They try once, then return to old habits. And every time they stop, they reset their progress. This is why nothing changes for them. But if you continue, something shifts. Growth begins to build on previous growth, and your money starts to stay instead of disappear. As you repeat this process, your system begins to create momentum. Each time money enters your life, the same action happens. Nothing is random anymore. And because nothing is random, your results stop being random. They become stable, predictable, and stronger with time. Now your money begins to behave differently. It is no longer something that simply passes through your hands. It becomes something that stays and works. Even small amounts begin to grow on top of each other. This is where real change begins. Most people never reach this point because they expect fast results. They want to see immediate change. And when they do not see it, they stop. But stopping breaks the system and brings back the old pattern again. The real advantage comes from continuing when nothing feels exciting, when growth is quiet, when results are not obvious, when it feels slow. This is when the system is actually working the most. At this stage, your thinking begins to change. You stop focusing on short-term results. You start focusing on long-term direction. This removes pressure and allows the system to grow without interruption. Now your financial life has structure. Money enters, a portion is protected, and that portion is directed toward growth. This flow repeats and builds strength over time. As this structure continues, your confidence becomes grounded in real progress. You are no longer hoping for change. You can see your system working step by step. This clarity removes doubt and replaces it with control. And control makes it easier to continue without hesitation. Your behavior begins to shift naturally. You stop spending without thinking and start choosing with intention. This change does not feel forced. It feels like awareness. And this awareness reduces unnecessary loss while strengthening your ability to build over time. Compounding becomes more visible. Growth starts building on previous growth. What once felt slow begins to accelerate. And this acceleration is not luck. It is the result of consistency applied over time without interruption. Most people never reach this stage because they interrupt the process. They chase quick results, react to no's, and lose focus. Every interruption resets momentum, and without momentum, growth never becomes powerful. You avoid this by staying focused on direction, not on speed, not on comparison, but on consistency. Because consistency always wins over time, even when it feels slow in the moment. Your system now works with less effort. What once required discipline becomes automatic. And when behavior becomes automatic, progress continues without resistance. At this point, your progress becomes visible in a way that feels real, not dramatic, but steady and undeniable. Your money is no longer disappearing without direction. It is staying and growing. And this confirms that your system is working exactly as intended over time. This creates a new level of confidence, not based on hope, but on evidence. You trust your actions because you have seen their results, and this trust allows you to continue even when progress feels slow or uncertain. Your identity begins to change. You are no longer someone who struggles to keep money. You become someone who builds it, and this identity shapes your behavior without effort, aligning your decisions with long-term growth automatically. Opportunities begin to look different. You are not asking what you can spend. You are asking what can grow. This shift opens paths that were always there, but invisible before your mindset changed. Others may not understand this shift. They continue reacting, spending, and repeating the same patterns. Their behavior may pressure you to return to old habits, and this is where many people fall back. But if you stay consistent, your results will separate you over time. Not instantly, but clearly. And that clarity reinforces the system you have built. At this stage, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. While others continue repeating the same patterns without progress, you are building something that grows over time. Your system works quietly, but consistently, and each decision you make strengthens the next one instead of resetting everything again. You also begin to feel less pressure around money, not because you stopped working, but because your progress is no longer tied only to your effort. Your money contributes. Your system supports you. And this removes the constant urgency that once controlled your decisions. Time now works in your favor. Instead of watching it pass without change, you use it to multiply your results. Every step forward adds to the last one. Every decision builds momentum. And over time, this accumulation creates something strong and stable. Momentum carries you forward. You no longer need to push as hard as before. The system moves with you. And this is where change becomes permanent, because it is supported by structure instead of effort alone. Then you realize something important. Your money never stayed because there was no system to keep it. It was always following the same pattern. And once you saw that pattern clearly, everything began to change. You stopped reacting and started directing. And that single shift created a completely different outcome over time. One where your money finally begins to stay and grow. Most people will never recognize this pattern. They will keep searching for better income, better timing, better opportunities, that they will ignore the simple behavior that controls everything. And because they ignore it, their money will continue to disappear no matter how much they earn. You chose a different path. You focused on what happens the moment money enters your life. You understood that repetition creates direction, and direction creates results. This gave you control over your financial future. From here, your progress becomes predictable. Not because you control every outcome, but because your system is stable. It does not depend on luck. It depends on consistency. And consistency creates results over time. There will still be moments when progress feels slow. Moments when nothing seems to change. But those moments do not stop you anymore, because you understand that growth builds quietly before it becomes visible. Looking back, the change feels simple. Just one shift in behavior. But that shift created a completely different path. A path where money stays and grows instead of disappearing without direction. This is the truth most people ignore. Your money does not disappear by accident. It follows your actions. Change your actions, and you change everything that follows. At this point, you understand something most people never realize. Money is not something you chase. It is something you manage through structure. When structure is missing, money disappears. When structure is present, money stays and begins to grow over time without constant effort. This is why the smallest change creates the biggest difference. Not a new strategy, not a new opportunity, but a new pattern. A simple decision repeated every time money enters your life. This is what builds stability and turns temporary income into lasting growth. And this is where everything comes together. Your money finally stays because your behavior changed. Your future grows because your system works. And what once felt impossible becomes natural, simply because you stopped repeating the pattern that kept you stuck.